Well, for more on this, we are being joined by Edward P. Joseph, Senior Fellow at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies, and he's also a foreign policy analyst, joining me live from Washington, D.C. Edward, great to see you again, and thank you for joining us this morning. Do you think there is peace on the horizon, or will Israel continue its campaign to wipe out Hamas as it has promised?
That's one thing that we do appear to be plausible, is that the intense negotiations that we saw recently in Paris, the United States, Israel, Qatar, and Egypt, that appears to be plausible because, as your report indicated, there's now a response from Hamas to the offer. And we have to remember that there was been a long-standing concept here that Israel had agreed to, which is a prolonged ceasefire in exchange for release of the hostages and some number of release of Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. So that construct appears to be possible. Whether there is a wider possibility for some peace, that remains more uncertain. But the story about some type of Saudi anger and fuming about the United States appears to be somewhat blown out of proportion. Please.
So Anthony Blinken right now, as we're speaking, is meeting Israeli President Herzog. Given a sense of the situation the U.S. finds itself in, as Anthony Blinken makes this fifth visit to the region, this balancing act that the United States is trying to play, how is that working out?
In fact, remarkably well, because we should put this all into some historical context. What you could be seeing here is Secretary Blinken being refused to even come to these various countries in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, or Egypt. Instead, he is able, as the Secretary of State, to speak to the highest levels of government, the Emir of Qatar, Crown Prince in Saudi Arabia, President of Egypt. All have seen him. And these have not been this, what we once saw, some type of tongue lashing and criticism. These are serious negotiations. That's the way they're portrayed. They're portrayed even domestically as these are mutually respectful encounters. That's the way that these are portrayed. And put this into historical context. What could we be seeing? We could be seeing some type of hostility on the order of what happened in 1973 with the Arab boycott of Israel and the oil embargo, where Arab countries, in furor at Israel, banded together and imposed an oil embargo on all countries, including the United States, that supported Israel. We see nothing of the kind. We see genuine efforts working, addressing U.S. and Israeli concerns about the release of the hostages. No one dismisses that in any of these capitals, in Doha, in Riyadh, or Cairo. No one says, just stop the fighting, ceasefire now, as so many protesters demand. That's not the position of these governments. They're taking the Israeli concerns, the American concerns seriously. The U.S., in turn, is taking the concerns of the Qataris, the Egyptians, and the Saudis seriously as well. So it's very difficult. It's not easy. We have to remember that Hamas does not abide by any of the standards, international law, or any political pressures. It's a renegade organization that clearly doesn't care about the welfare of its own people in Gaza. But nonetheless, these diplomatic efforts are moving forward, as difficult as they are. Please.
Well, thank you so much for that elaborate analysis. Edward P. Joseph joining us live from Washington, D.C. on this very critical topic that we'll be following very closely. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thanks, Edward.
Thank you.